Hi, I'm Shelley Pasternak, and I'm here today to interview Dr. Sid Cohen, a psychologist in private practice for almost 30 years in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Dr. Cohen recently published a book titled Inner Blocks to Losing Weight: Why We Lose the Battle More Than We Lose the Weight. The book is available for purchase on Amazon.com. So, Dr. Cohen, what inspired you to write this book?
Well, to tell you the truth, the main inspiration is a statistic. And that statistic is pretty well documented, that over 90% of people who try to lose weight and get somewhere along the line end up relapsing. In my experience, the relapse could be possibly about something physical or medical, like a problem with metabolism or side effects of medication. But in the large majority of instances, it's something else. And that something else, I believe, are these inner or psychological blocks that if people don't address, they're going to end up joining the 90%.
What do you mean by the term inner blocks?
Inner or psychological blocks are, if not conscious, then subconscious, psychologically sabotaging reasons or ways that a person starts off, may head down the path of losing weight, but then they end up sabotaging themselves because there are these blocks that need to be resolved.
Can you sum up these blocks and tell us which you consider to be the most important in losing weight?
Absolutely. There basically are 6 blocks. And just to sum them up, there's what I call addiction to self-rebellion, which basically in this case I'm defining rebellion as doing the opposite of what's in your best interest. So that block means when it comes to sabotaging yourself, you end up eating more than you should, things you shouldn't, and not exercising when you say you're going to. And the more often that goes on, it's basically an addictive pattern of doing the opposite of what's in your best interest. That's the first one. The second one is what I call anxiety. In this case, certain anxieties can kick in when you actually are losing weight. Anxieties about what can be the implications of losing weight that aren't really very obvious to a lot of people, and they are spelled out in my book. The third one is what I call loyalty, and that block is basically, again, if not consciously, then deep down, basically mirroring a pattern in one's family of upbringing, where that pattern generally is a lot of emphasis on eating and a lot of people basically being overweight. And that pattern ends up being mimicked, basically, again, not consciously, but it can be throughout a person's life. The fourth one is what I call psychological curse words. And in a nutshell, what I mean by that, at one end of the spectrum is way too much use of the word fat. It's a curse word because a lot of people deep down feel, if not consciously again, that there's a meaning of that word that kind of comes down to ugly, worthless, unlovable. And that's how I mean that fat is like an F word. The other side of the coin, curse words are skinny and thin. And I think of them as, in a sense, curse words because they are completely unrealistic goals for almost anyone trying to lose weight, and especially for women who see the skinny, thin role model in terms of models, and then kind of, in a sense, lose sight that they reach that point, basically for the most part, through anorexia and bulimia. So skinny and thin are not words that you want to set as your goal. Skinnier and thinner. 2 more blocks, these 2 are last but not least. One I call emotional eating, and that term has been kind of thrown around over the years. It basically, in a nutshell, means you either eat excessively because there isn't enough enjoyment or pleasure in your life, and it's therefore kind of a simple pleasure. On the other hand, some people, kind of whether they realize it or not, they're trying to squelch down certain negative feelings, like anger, like guilt, like hurt. And either way, eating more than you should or things you shouldn't accomplish that kind of emotional eating. The last block is what I call spite. That's more in the context of an ongoing relationship with someone where the overweight person is being pressured over and over to have to lose weight, to have to keep it off. And what can happen inside of the overweight person is they can, in so many words, feel like, hey, I'm not going to let you keep talking to me and keep pressuring me like that. In fact, I'm going to show you that you can't do it. I'm going to end up not losing weight. In a sense, that's kind of the spiteful undercurrent to that. And those are the 6 blocks.
How do you know which blocks apply to you and which don't?
Basically, Shelley, that one boils down to a person needs to be totally honest with themselves. As they're reading through my book and they're reading the 6 blocks, a person needs to be totally honest. They have to go through the description of each block, look within themselves, and decide, that block really does apply to me. That block doesn't apply to me. Some people, only 1 or 2 blocks apply. Some people, it could be 3 or 4. Some people, frankly, it's all 6. At risk of sounding repetitive, the key is you got to be totally honest with yourself.
Dr. Cohen, you have a chapter in your book devoted to the term inner bully. Can you explain to me what you mean by this term?
Sure. In a nutshell, the inner bully is the negative part of our subconscious, a kind of powerful negative force inside. And the whole purpose of that force is to sabotage us. Again, we're reading more than we should, things we shouldn't, don't exercise when we say we're going to. It is as though there is this bully inside. And it isn't necessarily something conscious, but deep down, that bully can be saying in so many words, you think that I'm going to let you lose weight and keep it off? Forget it. When I say so in so many words, you are going to start again, eating more than you should, things you shouldn't, and not exercise, because I want you to regain that lost weight. And I'll win and you lose.
You have another chapter in your book devoted to self-worth. How does this connect with losing weight?
Well, basically, Shelley, core self-worth boils down to two things. It's a combination of self-esteem and self-respect. Self-esteem can basically be thought of as how you're feeling about your physical appearance. Well, obviously, if you're overweight, the odds are you're not going to be feeling very good about your physical appearance. So therefore, your self-esteem will be down. Self-respect has more to do with working at something, really making the effort. Well, if you keep sabotaging yourself in terms of trying to lose weight, part of what also happens is you can lose respect for yourself. So if you're losing respect for yourself because you're not really sticking with the effort, and you're not feeling very good certainly about your self-esteem because you don't think you look real good, well, together, that's all going to undermine your self-worth.
Your final chapter in the book is titled The 10 Commandments. Sounds a bit bold. What do you mean by that?
Well, I don't mean the title to sound I'm being godlike, but let me, if I may, my book has the 10 Commandments in it. I don't remember all of them certainly offhand, so if you don't mind, what I'm going to do is I'm going to quote some of the commandments in my book. So, for example, we have, you will make no vows or resolutions about losing weight that you do not fully intend to keep. Another example, you remind yourself every day that your true self-esteem depends more on what you like about yourself on the inside, more than anything about feeling good on the outside. And last but not least, as another example of a commandment, you will weigh yourself as infrequently as possible while trying to lose weight.
Dr. Cohen, you offer a one-on-one inner block program. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Sure, Shelley. In my office, for people in my geographic vicinity, I offer a program based on my book in which, not therefore just reading the book and kind of trying to work it out on your own, I have people who want to come in and do this program based on my book, where the emphasis of the program is one-on-one counseling. We address each block that applies, go through them, work on some issues related to those blocks, and hopefully through the one-on-one counseling, that provides or creates even more benefit than just reading the book itself.
Last but not least, Dr. Cohen, what will people gain most from reading your book?
Well, certainly I hope what they don't gain is weight. I just had to throw that into the mix. But seriously, what I hope, Shelley, that people will gain is not just an understanding that these blocks need to be addressed and resolved to really be able to lose weight, much less to keep the weight off, but that in fact, if you do that, then any diet program, any exercise program you choose, frankly, most of them do not have very good results. But if you use this inner block program, then I sincerely believe, based on what I've seen in my office especially, you will lose weight. You will keep it off. The odds are much better if you address and resolve your inner blocks, again, as I say, on almost any program you use.
Thanks very much, Dr. Cohen, and good luck with your book.
Thank you very much, Shelley. I appreciate it.